Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships. As today we have the web camera set up because I feel like this is being maybe a little bit more of an intentional discussion topic video, and being able to have my face for you to see me as we talk about some things here in World of Warships. And particularly so, I want to look at the last 3 dockyards we've had here in World of Warships, spanning from Puerto Rico to the Admiral Schroeder, and then to the current dockyard being the Daisen. And I was a bit curious in what started all this comparison that I want to do between the 3 dockyards, was particularly looking at the rewards and ultimately what you're getting from each of the dockyard events, just to see how they've been tracking. With the newest dockyard, as you see Puerto Rico on the screen now, but the newest dockyard with Tier 9 Japanese battle cruiser, the Daisen, the rewards haven't felt so enticing to the point where, like in this dockyard, we're even getting credits. In the last previous several dockyards, we've not gotten credits from. And then also the common expendable bonuses. So kind of trying to figure out what's going on and how the last 3 dockyards compared overall. And they would be cost, the amount of rewards. There's some discrepancies, of course, between some that they were certain seasons like Admiral Schroeder, where they're going to throw in some standard gift containers where, you know, Puerto Rico and Daisen, you know, it's not Christmas event time, so no standard containers, but we're going to look at that. And so what I've done is, as you're seeing here now, as I'm switching the screen, is I've made a nice Word document, and I also have a very nice Excel document to even take a much more cleaner look in comparing the rewards of the last 3 World of Warships dockyards. So what I've done here, I have a key for the color key of green being best, purple being middle, you think of it second place, and red being worst, third place, and then a blue color being for like identical, essentially. So what I've done is I've gone over the last 3 dockyards, and so what I did was I started with Puerto Rico, then went to Admiral Schroeder, and then we went to look at the current dockyard being Daisen. So one of the things that's very interesting, well, in World of Warships, kind of correcting a wrong, so to speak, and bringing back the Puerto Rico for the Dockyard 2.0, after they really did a colossal mess up with the first Dockyard. Back when I first started playing World of Warships, it was a complete PR disaster, dumpster fire. Wargaming made it worse. They threw gasoline on the fire. So they came back with the Puerto Rico, and they said, hey, we want to kind of right a wrong, and we want to offer this again, since most players at that time didn't have the possibility of picking up Puerto Rico unless you whaled it for a lot of money. And they learned a lot of lessons from that, and the dockyards since have been much better. But what's been interesting is seeing how much Wargaming plays with the number of shipbuilding phases, the rewards you get, and the cost in doubloons, whether you get the starter packs and rewards, just in generally speaking. So I've done here on the first page, you can see Puerto Rico as a whole. Puerto Rico had 40 shipbuilding phases, 6 of which you had to pay for, which was 7,500 doubloons, being 1,250 doubloons per shipbuilding phase. And typically, if you buy a shipbuilding phase, I believe it's 1,750 doubloons if you don't get the starter pack, so this is a reduced cost. But something that's been really nice about the last 2 dockyards, in particular in Puerto Rico, before Daisen, but Puerto Rico and the Admiral Schroeder, is that we got premium ships out of both of those dockyards, where the current dockyard, the only premium ship you get is Daisen itself. So I'm making the comparison to the Huron, and then also the Tier 7 British battleship, the renowned 44. So here you can see that I have a lot of purple on the screen besides some red, purple being mid-levels of the amount of rewards that you got. You got 20,000 coal in total. Usually the last several shipbuilding phases for each of the dockyards has been pretty standard: 10,000 coal, 4,000 research bureau points, 2,000 steel, and then you get the ship ceremonial permanent camouflage or war paint camouflage, permanent camouflage, a port slot, and a commander with 10 skill points, and the commemorative flag marking each of the dockyard events. So what's interesting with Puerto Rico is that this was the time that the economic rework took place, and this is kind of something I'm going to be talking a little bit about in today's video. Took place in 11.6, and then the Puerto Rico dockyard started in 11.7. So you may, if you've been playing long enough, so going back into early fall last year, late summer, something like that, you had the gift containers. And so these used to give like the Leviathan combat signals, and you had different enhanced economic signals. So what they did in that brief time I was talking to one of my several clanmates, actually both NA and my EU clan, we're trying to figure out what was the rewards they gave for you. And it seems that we've landed on, actually I need to update this. First I was thinking maybe it was the special economic bonuses, but it looks like it was maybe more the rare economic bonuses, the blue ones. We got 3 each, where if it had been the other way around, you probably were getting 5 each of the special economic bonuses. So that's actually something I need to change here. So that would have been 21, and this was kind of marking the old one. So as a whole, a lot of things we see here. The Excel document will probably be a little more telling in comparing them side by side. It kind of helped open my eyes up to a little bit more. The Admiral Shoulder was technically it was the cheapest dockyard, in total of 5,000 doubloons. Daisen is 5,500 doubloons. But it kind of, if you look at it as a perspective of cost per shipbuilding phase, it was only 1,100 doubloons per shipbuilding phase for the Daisen. So Daisen had 34, has 34 combat or shipbuilding phases, where Admiral Shoulder was 30 shipbuilding phases. So technically, in terms of worth value, the Puerto Rico would be the most valuable of these past 3 dockyards because she's a tier 10 battle cruiser. Daisen would probably take second place because she's a Japanese, or she's a tier 9 battleship, and typically battleships have more worth just overall than cruisers. And then Daisen would be coming in at third, just in terms of how Wargaming classifies the cost and value of the ships in the game. So here in Admiral Shoulder, you can see this is where you had the Santa gift containers. You had 1 Santa gift, 2 Santa big gift containers. You didn't get any distant voyages containers, so you got some in Puerto Rico and you get some in the current dockyard. And then it's 18,000 coal in total when you add the in shipbuilding phases in with what you got in the beginning, because it's like usually it's, I think they did it, how did they break that up? I think they did a 2,000 or 4,000 coal, or no, I don't remember. There was steps up. You got coal in multiple different shipbuilding phases to end up 8,000 plus 10,000 at the end. And then Daisen has been a very different, interesting story, and so this is why the shipbuilding dockyard has gotten my attention a bit more, mainly because it just feels the rewards are less. Okay, so I wanted to wrap my head around this, so I spent Sunday afternoon, like I think actually probably longer than I should have, like 2 hours or more, just kind of creating these documents and charts. And one of the things I think particularly is the last several the dockyards we've gotten premium ships from. I think even if you go back to Marlborough, that's where you got the Repulse at tier 6 and you got the Dreadnought at tier 3. Then it has been the tier 7 Commonwealth destroyer, the Huron, and then you had the tier 7 British battleship Renown 44, and then no kind of in between ship for this dockyard before you get to Daisen. So that's been felt a little differently. But then you can see in terms of economics, they've increased a lot of things. They increased the value of the Elite Commander XP in comparison to the previous dockyards, which I'm about to switch over to Excel document to show you. You had the best of being, actually I think this is, I have it correct on the other one. You got 30,000 coal out of the Daisen dockyard. Well, 20,000 there, and then 10,000 down here. So gotta keep that straight in my head. You got more free XP, and you even got more premium days. Not that it was a significant difference, but just kind of seeing what's the trajectory, what's Wargaming's focus been over the last 3 dockyards. So if I go over to the Excel document now, here I have 2 sheets. One is just a standard comparison. We can see things side by side, and the other is a colored comparison. So the same colors I was using in marking what's been best and to worst. So when you put them side by side, you can see Puerto Rico happened in an update 11.7, Admiral Schroeder started in 11.11, and Daisen started in 12.3. The next dockyard, so I'm going to keep building off these. So as we go into the future, I'm just going to compare all the rewards and number of shipbuilding phases and cost, and just kind of comparing this as we go along. As I think they do, was it 3 to 4 dockyards a year? Maybe there's 3. So here you can see the comparison and contrast, how things just look different as you go down. And I'll go over to the colored comparison. Some things you can see, these were the same. But let me go over to the colored comparison, because this kind of helps paint a better picture for us. So here, as you're looking at, ship class, I mean, basically Puerto Rico and Admiral Schroeder, they're both 3 and 5mm guns. They're both pretty much battle cruisers in terms of their health and armor scheme. But you can see Puerto Rico was the winner of Tier 10 phases. Technically, it had the most. So I think I meant to label this opposite, because more shipbuilding phases means more of a grind and a higher cost, as there was 6 phases to buy versus the 4 you had for Schroeder, 5 for Daisen. And then the phase cost in total, and starting off with the starter pack is probably how I should phrase it, the minimum of what you needed to obtain the ship if you did the starter pack and then you did the dockyard combat missions. So you can see Schroeder is technically the best, but Daisen would win if you compared it to the cost per phase, being 1,100 doubloons versus 1,250 doubloons per phase for Puerto Rico in Admiral Schroeder. So that, when you break that number down, it just shows you that basically Wargaming is aiming for roughly doubloon cost per phase. So that's kind of like a mark that Wargaming wants to hit between 1,100 and 1,250 doubloons, we can guess just from looking at the data objectively. Renown 44 would be the best, since it's a Tier 7 battleship. Wargaming gives more value and worth to battleships than a same tier other ship class, so for example Destroyer. But then for Daisen, you didn't actually get any ships. Camouflages, so after, it was kind of funny when so Puerto Rico Dockyard started, you got 20 of the American camouflages, Stars and Stripes I think they're called, but they lost because they baked in that negative 3% camouflage into the ships. So you don't have to also calculate that in. So basically, it's just cosmetic is all the camouflages are now in World of Warships, the temporary ones that you can add on. So 20, then 30, so Schroeder had the most. I don't remember what specific ones Schroeder had. And then Elite Commander XP, you can see we had 75,000 from Puerto Rico, 60,000 for Schroeder, and then we had 295,000 for Daisen. So they definitely increased that dramatically, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I want to look at the next 2 ones as well. Cole, Puerto Rico had 20,000, Schroeder 18,000, and that actually needs to be read, and then 30,000 for Daisen. How do you pronounce the ship's name? Free XP, Puerto Rico had the worst, 25,000 free XP, then 32,500 free XP, and then 40,000 free XP, the best for the Daisen. So when you're just looking at these 3 alone, Wargaming really seemed to increase the economic rewards of this dockyard versus the last 2 dockyards when you're looking at Cole, Elite Commander XP, and Free XP. Granted, the Free XP I would say is not that major of a thing. From 32,500 to 40,000 isn't that big of a step, especially if you use something like the rare Free XP economic bonus. Expendable bonus, you can really make that up well. You play a good ship in the game. So they increased the economic reward. I think that's really how you can sum up the rewards for the Daisen Dockyard in comparison to the last 2. They increased more the economic rewards, where in the past 2 dockyards with Puerto Rico and Schroeder, you've had just more overall rewards, in the form of a ship. I mean, I'm more excited about getting a ship than I am getting more Elite Commander XP and Free XP. So this dockyard reward phases felt more of kind of a letdown, I guess would be the word, because I can get these things eventually if I just play the game enough. Granted, you're just getting more economics without having to do the grind and the playing. Premium days, you had 5 from Puerto Rico, 4 for Schroeder, and then you have 7. So again, a slightly uptick in terms of economic rewards. The Distant Voyagers containers, you had 3 from Puerto Rico, none from Schroeder, 2 from the Daisen. Santa's Gift, this was a bit of an outlier because this was only in terms of connected with the time of the dockyard shorter was around Christmas season. So you had 3 of them. So then you can see, oh, okay, that they're probably making up for the distant voyages containers, if that's how objectively they're looking at it. And then I don't think in any dockyard we've had up until now with the Daisen is that you got almost 2 million credits. Now, if I play 2 battles in Kid with the rare economic credit bonus multiplier, I can make this up in 2 games. So for me, it's like, oh, okay, well, they gave us credits this time. It kind of feels like a letdown. But again, I think they're just, in total, what they're doing is that they're using, what I would say, these 5 cells, these 5 rewards, increasing this to make up for having no premium ship this time around, and one you're grinding up for the ultimate reward of the dockyard being the ship itself, right? Things that haven't really changed at all is that they give you the research points to steal and then the 10,000 coal. So I just added the 10,000 coal you got towards the end of shipbuilding phases into the total amount of coal that you got from the dockyard. So these things are the same. They haven't taken away permanent camo, port slot, commander 10 points, commemorative flag. You're still getting those things. The next thing I was interested in is seeing how the, economically speaking, how have things changed with the economic bonuses. So first off, this is just, you have 2 differences here. These are just the economic bonuses they straight up gave you. And then this category down here is different in terms of you got the containers, and then you'd open them, and then you get 5 commander XP economic bonuses, or you get 5 free XP economic bonuses of their varying different degrees of percentages. So when you're looking at the Puerto Rico dockyard, we actually got a lot out of Puerto Rico. 212 in total, and they gave you even 12 of the unique, the red. So I don't technically have red, so I just dyed this box red around the cell itself. So you actually got 12, and so that was really interesting in seeing, because that was the start of the economic rework and the change. And you can see it's gone down in terms of just what they're straight up handing you. You know, from going from Puerto Rico 212 to Schroeder 120, and then 52 for the Daisen. But then when you look in terms of the numbers here, you can see that overall Puerto Rico is the best, then Schroeder, and then Daisen, just when you comparing the numbers. And then if you looked at the gift containers, so this is the 7 gift containers, and they would have had 21 of the rare economic signals within them. So I've just labeled them up top because that was a little bit of an outlier for the Puerto Rico dockyard since then. And you can see that you didn't get any containers in terms of the common, special, rare, unique containers. I don't know if they've even had those quite at the start of update 11.7 when Puerto Rico dockyard started. But you had 7 gift containers, so I'll just have a different category up there for them. So you had 21 essentially if you would open and get 3 per container. And then when you went to Admiral Schroeder, it got better in terms of the containers, economic containers you got. You got 14 containers overall for the special, 10 of the rare, meaning you would get 50 combat signals, and how they break down, because the rare containers have 3 of each type when you open a container, so 10 times 3, 30, where the common and special, those containers, they have 5 apiece. So then that means 5 times 4, you get 20. Then going to Daisen, you can see that you got even more economic containers, where the number increased dramatically, 108. So you can see it's actually reverse when you're looking at actual economic bonuses they gave you versus economic containers. The number flips from Puerto Rico to Daisen when you're seeing the color coordinate change. So Admiral Schroeder has kind of been the one just hanging there in the middle, and it's been bouncing between Puerto Rico and then Daisen down here. So in terms of total economic bonuses, who was the total economic bonus winner? Well, it was the Puerto Rico, because you got 212, then plus 21, giving you 233. And then for Admiral Schroeder, 120 plus 50, 170. And then the Daisen, 52 plus 108, means that you got 160 overall. So I don't know what this data necessarily means. This is something I was particularly curious and wanted to understand a little bit better in comparing the last several dockyards in terms of the rewards and just overall the shit that you're getting. What it seems to be happening, if I was to say on a very surface level, when you're looking at this, is that with the economic rework, this doesn't just apply for Dockyard as well. As part of Wargaming's economic rework over the last year, they've been slowly kind of giving you less rewards, economic rewards overall. So then what they're doing is that they're increasing the value of future economic rewards, because you're not getting as much as you did before the economic rework, and how they keep changing things around, even cost of credits for super ships, and then they get more now, then you get less, and this is always changing things. And so there's a lot of things beyond just the dockyards in terms of understanding the economic rework more in World of Warships. But with this dockyard, what they've done is that they've just increased the economic rewards. And that's why, for me, the dockyard, in terms of rewards based, it doesn't feel really good in comparison to the last several dockyards we've had. And if you want me to, if I think about it, perhaps I should even go back and look at the other dockyards, with Odin, Anchorage, D7 Provincian, that's how you pronounce the ship, Marlborough, right? And seeing kind of maybe on a grander scale how things have been going. But of course, the economic rework took place in 11.6, and then Puerto Rico Dockyard was 11.7. So you can tell me what you think in the comments, if this is something from the data, makes something stand out to you. But for me, the reason this whole video, the reason I'm even doing this, why I even started, is that just the rewards just felt less for this dockyard. And even talking with other people, they've been less motivated for the dockyard, because they just feel like they're not getting as good rewards from it. And you can kind of begin to see and understand why once we start going through these things and looking at it overall. So that's going to go ahead and bring the video to a close. To go to the wrong screen there. So let me know what you think as we compare these last several dockyards. I'll continue to keep comparing them in the future as we go forward. So you can stay tuned for future comparison dockyard videos when we're just looking at terms of the reward space and what we're getting. Of course, you don't even have to participate in the dockyard, right? You can completely ignore it as a player if you want, but of course you can grind, get free things just from playing combat missions, even if you don't want to pick up the reward ship. But it's interesting to track the rewards overall and what you're getting. So if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. And subscribe, thanks so much, we appreciate it. We're getting really close to 1,400 subscribers. And when that happens, I'll do a 1,400 subscriber live stream kind of celebration, celebrating the fact that we're continuing to grow here on the FlimsyLunchTray channel. So until next time, take care.